it's Kat of Kat's Novel Adventures. In today's video, I am going to share with you how well I did or didn't do with rule number 3 of the Tranquility by Tuesday challenge, which was to move by 3 p.m. The purpose of this rule is to move by 3 p.m. by doing some kind of physical activity for about 10 minutes in the first half of the day. Laura Vanderkam pretty much leaves it up to you what type of activity you want to spend your 10 minutes before 3 p.m. doing. She suggested maybe push-ups, sit-ups, bicep curls. You could go for a walk or even go in the backyard and play with your kids or your dog. I personally think if you do household chores or even go grocery shopping, that should also count if it happens before 3 p.m. Now, Laura does acknowledge that this rule will not work for everyone. There are some people who have jobs that do not allow them to get up from their desk and walk around for 10 minutes during the day. Or there's some people that don't want to do any physical activity or a specified workout before 3 p.m. They prefer to do it in the evening. However, there are benefits from moving around a little bit before you get into that afternoon slump. Laura stated in her blog post for this rule, even if you get no other activity, building in a 10-minute walk break will allow you to focus for the rest of the workday. Choosing to move in the first half of the day means the day is less likely to get away from you. Is that 10 minutes before 3 p.m. really worth it? Well, according to the current guidelines for aerobic activity, you only need 150 minutes per week. So if you exercised or did some kind of physical activity for at least 10 minutes before 3 p.m., 7 days a week, that's 70 minutes. That's almost halfway to your 150 minutes. And if you wanted to go ahead and add that additional 11.5 minutes in the afternoon with some physical activity, you'd be up to your 150 minutes for the week. On February 3rd, Laura sent an email explaining rule number 3, move by 3 p.m., along with the planning questions. So here are my responses to those questions. Planning question number 1 was, on average, how much exercise do you currently do per week? When do you exercise, and what kind of exercise do you do? Sadly, I'm currently not exercising. Zero. Zilch. Nada. And I am not proud. Planning question number 2, what sort of physical activity could you do for 10 minutes before 3 p.m. during an average day? Walk. I love walking. I especially love walking by myself, usually listening to a podcast. Sometimes I even like to take my little dog for a walk. I like being outside, so walking is one of those activities I enjoy doing. Not only that, I have a treadmill. So if I can't get outside, I can always jump on the treadmill for 10 minutes. Planning question number 3 was, think about today. When could you do this activity today? I answered these questions on Friday, and I chose anywhere between 10 and 1 o'clock for a weekday. I just would prefer to either take a little break after I've worked a little bit in the morning, or potentially even do it after I eat lunch, if for some reason whatever I'm working on actually goes through until lunchtime. Question number 4, how about tomorrow? When could you do this activity tomorrow? Since we're talking about Saturday and we're talking about the weekend, I would like to go in the morning. I think I would also like to have a cup of coffee first, then go for my walk, and then come back and have breakfast. Question number 5, what challenges might keep you from building more physical activity into your life? And question number 6, how can you address these challenges? Guess what my challenge is going to be? I'm sure it's not going to be very hard to guess that the challenge is going to be me, because I always seem to stand in my own way. Now, how would I address these challenges? Well, how would I address myself? I think the only way that this is going to work is if I actually schedule those 10 minutes each day in my schedule. I have to plan it. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if I can honor it even if I put it on my schedule, because sometimes I just get too involved in what I'm doing and I forget. I guess I would have to set a timer or something like that. But we're going to see, because this is a plan. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be carried out the way we think it's going to be. I know that you can't wait to see how I did with this rule, and I'm just going to say I did awful. Yeah, I did not do very well. Now, even though I didn't move by 3 p.m. on any of the days during the week, at least traditionally with physical activity like exercise and push-ups, walking, that kind of stuff, I did get some exercise or physical activity in the afternoons, especially on Thursday when my husband and I went out of town to the beach. We walked the beach when we got to the hotel that evening, right before we went to dinner. We walked on the beach for about an hour looking for little crabs and picking up some shells. And I count that as physical activity. It just didn't happen before 3 p.m. Here are the answers to the reflection questions for rule number 3. The first one is, about how much exercise did you get this week, and when did you do this, and how much did you do? Well, as I explained, I did not really do any physical activity before 3 p.m. I didn't do my little 10 minutes of physical activity per se, unless we can count grocery shopping on Sunday, because I did walk around Walmart for an hour grocery shopping. I was pushing a buggy. I mean, that should count for physical activity, don't you think? Reflection question number 2 is, what effects did you see in your life from moving by 3 p.m. most days? None. I saw no effects because I failed. I did not do any specific physical activity before 3 p.m. Reflection questions numbers 3 and 4 are, what challenges did you face in implementing this week's strategy? How did you deal with these challenges? First of all, I am the challenge. I am the obstacle in my way of achieving this rule. I'm going to be honest with you, I did not give it a second thought because I didn't plan it in my schedule, because I did no planning. I just basically, like I said before, lived by my calendar. I knew I was going out of town. I was focused on that. I had an audition that I had to prepare for. I basically was focusing on other things, and I knew I needed to get things done by a certain point so I would be ready to leave on Thursday. And as far as how I dealt with it, I didn't. I mean, because I wasn't really thinking about it. Reflection question number 5. If you needed to modify this rule, how did you do so? I guess I modified it by counting grocery shopping as physical activity. I mean, I did do it in the morning from 9 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock. The last reflection question is, how likely are you to continue to move by 3 p.m.? I'm going to say highly unlikely, because I don't think that I can remember to do this 7 days a week unless I actually schedule it. And I don't even know if that would help. So perhaps I could possibly strive to do this at least 3 times in the week, but I'm not going to promise anything. Laura also asked questions about the other rules that we have previously implemented, because the whole point of this is that you try a new rule, but you're also trying to continue doing the other rules that have been assigned for the challenge. I'm going to talk about rule number 2 first before rule number 1. Did you plan on Fridays? Unfortunately, no, and that's pretty much why I failed at rule number 3. We can't forget about rule number 1. Did you observe a bedtime this week? Yes! I think I'm doing so well with rule number 1, which is giving yourself a bedtime. I am excited about how well I'm doing. I mean, I think so anyway. So let me just explain what I did this week as far as going to bed on time. I feel like I'm continuing to improve with this rule because on all 7 nights I was ready for sleep by 11:20. Only 2 nights I read before lights out. One night I watched YouTube videos. One night I was posting a book picture on Instagram. One night I was doing some chores. One night I took my shower and went straight to bed. And then the night that we were at the beach, I was downloading video clips from my phone to my iPad so that I could free up some space on my phone for the next day because we were supposed to be going to the zoo. I did no mindless scrolling, and that is huge. This is the first week that I did no mindless scrolling. I'm proud of that because there are usually a couple of nights that I'm sitting there scrolling on Facebook or Instagram. Kudos to me. Woo-hoo. Overall, I think I did better than my first week, and I've improved even from my second week. Although I will say I am still working on my winding down routine. I really want my winding down routine to be reading before going to bed. So it's just how I'm going to schedule my day is really the biggest hurdle I'm trying to get over right now. And I think part of the problem is I have just overextended myself. I have so many things going on right now that I'm being pulled in a million directions and I'm not organizing the time that I'm doing all of these different activities. I think that will help if I can ever get into that organizing mode in the future. Now you'll notice I said I was in bed at least by 11:20, and even though I'm really trying very hard to figure out if I should be in bed by 11 or 10:30, I have to say that 11:20 is much better than 11:30 or midnight or almost 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm still also trying to figure out, what is the best as far as should I be doing 10:30, should I be doing 11 o'clock, because I am waking up anywhere between 6 and 7 in the morning, regardless of what time I am going to sleep. Now, I also am trying to strive to get up for 6 a.m. as well. So I am pleased with only getting in bed one night out of the week for 11:20. I think it's much better than what I've been doing. I'm still a work in progress, so hopefully by the time our 9 weeks are over, I will have achieved giving myself a bedtime that I can stick with. We can't forget about my friend Liz, who is also doing this challenge with me. She and I email each other and we touch base and just support each other as we're working through these rules. And Liz is one of the people that Laura is talking about not being able to necessarily fit in the 10 minutes during the time that she's specifying by moving by 3 p.m. So this is what Liz responded back to me. I am decidedly not rocking it. More like flopping like a dead fish, I'm afraid. The bedtime and planning are going well, but I completely hit a wall with exercising before 3 o'clock. I just don't know where to find the time, and I get up at 5 a.m. for work and don't get home until about 4:45, and there literally isn't any opportunity. And this is not uncommon for many people. Many people are busy working the entire time. I know when I was in the classroom, I didn't have time to necessarily specify 10 minutes for me to be able to go walk around. Now, when I was an instructional coach, I could get up from my desk, I would walk around to visit the classrooms, but not everybody has a job where they can do that. She also said that she does take her dog for a walk when she gets home. Again, that's after 3 p.m., so she is getting a little bit of exercise, just not before that time that Laura is asking us to get up and do that. She thinks that once it gets nicer outside, that she'll be able to do it. So she's also in a situation where the weather is not great. So she probably could go outside and walk, during her lunch break, at least for 10 minutes, but she's not going to be able to do that possibly until the spring, until the weather improves. And she said that she feels like she's basically flunking at this rule. Well, Liz, I'm flunking at this rule also. I'm just not remembering to do it, or I'm not planning correctly enough. However, the good news is she is doing really well with her bedtime and the planning. And one of the lessons that she's learned from rule number 3, and I think this even goes a long way, is that she is working entirely too much. So while that's not a good thing, she at least can acknowledge it. And I think that's what's important, because once you acknowledge that there is an issue, then maybe you can come up with a solution to fix that issue. I have finished part 1 of the Tranquility by Tuesday book by completing rule number 3. Now we're going on to the second part of the book, which is titled Make Good Things Happen. We will begin with rule number 4, which is 3 times a week is a habit. So the planning questions for rule number 4 are: number 1, think of some activities you'd like to do more frequently in your life. 2, choose one specific activity to focus on for the week. 3, when did you last do this activity? 4, looking forward to this next week, when could this happen? List at least 3 times. Number 5, what obstacles might prevent you from doing this activity 3 times a week? And number 6 is, how can you address these challenges? Thanks everyone for joining me for another segment of my adventures with the Tranquility by Tuesday challenge. I'll be here next week with how I'm gonna do with the rule number 4. Hopefully I do better with rule number 4 than I did with rule number 3. I really appreciate you being here. If you have any questions about the challenge or anything else that I'm doing, or if you just have some general comments, leave them in the comments section below. I really love reading what you have to say, and it really does give me a happiness boost that you stop by and that you spend some time with me watching my videos. In the meantime, stay amazing and be adventurous.